So Ghost in the Shell, I have been waiting a long time for this review. Those who know what I mean know what I mean. Those who don't, let me quickly clarify it for you. Throughout the length of this review, I may say or do things that some would consider out of place in a movie review, but if you know, there are some people who are watching who understand exactly what I'm saying. If you don't understand what I'm saying, just go with it. So Ghost in the Shell is directed by Rupert Sanders, not Saunders, Rupert Sanders, and stars SJ, Scarlett Johansson, in the leading role of Major. And fun fact, I actually went to the premiere of this film where they were giving out free DVD copies of the movie.
Jesus Christ, it's great.
Now this film is actually a remake of a classic Japanese anime film and comics or manga of the same name. And to be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of reboots, or remakes. I think that they should, Hollywood should be more original. And frankly, I just don't like it when, you take a sort of Asian property and you kind of convert it into, you kind of Hollywoodize it. We've seen that obviously reboots and remakes can work very well, but sometimes, most of the time, not so much. So I was kind of worried going into this film, and in fact, after we had finished the film, I saw this film with my mum. I told her, even though she really enjoyed the film, she thought it was really creative and imaginative, I told her that it was a reboot of a Japanese film, and she was like, wow, I've just lost a ton of respect for this film. So I'm not like a huge fan of reboots, and going into this film, I wasn't like super excited for it, right? But to be honest with you, I was relatively pleasantly surprised. Now, this film takes place in like a near future setting, right, where people have sort of embraced and accepted technology, and a lot of people, like 90% of people, have technological enhancements, whether it's like your eyes or your arm or your liver. So there's literally a character in the film who has enhanced his liver so that he can drink more, like stuff like that. And Major, played by Scarlett Johansson, is essentially the first of her kind to literally have a human brain put into the body of a robot. So she's in a shell. So she's essentially like a special agent, sort of, who works for this section of the government, and she just stops crimes and stuff. And essentially the film is about her finding out who she sort of really is before her brain was put in this body. And there's a villain, but who may or may not be the villain, and stuff like that, and this big corporation who sort of manufactured her, who may or may not be spinning a web of lies. So this film is kind of like a sci-fi film and an action film, and it's also very sort of like a spy thriller. And this film has many different themes, but let's talk about what I really liked about this film first, which are the technical aspects. Rupert Sanders' direction in this film, from a technical standpoint, is near flawless. This is a gorgeous looking film that is reminiscent of Blade Runner in many ways, not just visually, but from like themes and topics which we will get into later. But the visuals are absolutely breathtaking. This is easily the most beautiful film I've seen all year. It may be the most beautiful film I've seen in a while, because the CGI, and there is a lot of CGI, because a lot of CGI is necessary to recreate and reconstruct some of the scenes from the original film, which, by the way, I haven't seen. I have seen clips from that film, but I haven't actually seen that film from start to finish. But a lot of the scenes do look very similar, and it does look like a very faithful adaptation. CGI works very well, it's very good, and it blends really well with the practical effects, and there is an admirable amount of practical effects being used in this film. The world that they live in is so well realized, and not only is it beautiful, it also feels very lived in. The score is absolutely magnificent. I love the score of this film, and the action scenes are, again, really good. No sort of shaky cam, no quick edits, like no over edits. It's very, very well filmed. It's very smooth and very energetic. Scarlett Johansson is very good. Despite all the controversy behind her, she is very good in this film. Her character is very interesting, and you really do root for her. Although there is one sort of aesthetic, I guess, problem that I have with her that I can't really say because it'll be like spoilers. I mean, she's in a robot body, right? Which means that if the company or the bad guy just wanted to shut her off, like, why don't they just like put a button on the top of her head so they can just shut it off? Like, why not? Like, you know what I mean? So that was a bit of a logical inconsistency, but that was fine. The rest of the cast is really good. They're all very, very good. And again, I can't commend the visuals enough because they are absolutely beautiful. But unfortunately, this film is a bit of a mess from a storytelling standpoint. The first 10 minutes of the film is pretty great. And then after that, until about the end of the second act, it's very slow. It's just people walking from point A to point B, and they're just talking, and it's kind of boring, and it's exposition, and I didn't really enjoy that portion of the film. It was unnecessarily overcomplicated, and I did not like it that much. However, the third act does pick up quite a lot, and I did enjoy the third act, although some elements of the third act did feel a little bit Hollywoodized again, and I'll talk about that later. But I do think that the third act definitely picked up the pace. It was definitely more energetic, and I did like the third act quite a bit. The first two acts, the first act was pretty decent, the second act was just boring, and I actually almost fell asleep, I'm not even joking. It was that bad. But easily the biggest problem that I have with this film is that this film is definitely something that could be compared to classics like Blade Runner and The Matrix. In fact, the Wachowskis said that when they were making The Matrix, the original Ghost in the Shell film was a big inspiration to them. But unfortunately, this 2017 version of Ghost in the Shell tries to be like Blade Runner, tries to be like Matrix, but it's nowhere near as smart or as intellectually stimulating as it thinks it is. And that was a bit of a problem, because just on the whole, this film feels kind of conflicted from a tonal standpoint, because it's like part Hollywood action blockbuster, and it's part like intriguing, interesting character study with depth. But it's kind of like lost between the two, and because of that, some elements of the film do feel kind of unnecessarily pretentious, and it didn't really work for me. But although this film does have problems, this film is nowhere near as bad as people have been saying it is. It is a gorgeous looking film with some great action scenes and a great lead, and I'm going to give Ghost in the Shell a B. Guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, sorry if this video is a bit late. I've been getting over a bit of a cold, fever, flu type thing. But guys, thank you as always very much for watching. Thank you.